Our ancestors were explorers of the highest order, guided not by compasses or maps, but by the wind and stars. They braved vast oceans and crossed towering mountain ranges, driven by an unyielding quest for new lands. These journeys were not mere wanderings. They were deliberate acts of courage and vision. Over thousands of years, they transformed into astronomers who mapped the heavens to guide their paths, architects who raised structures that harmonized with the earth, philosophers and scientists who unlocked the secrets of nature, and artists and inventors who gave life to vibrant cultures. From the Arctic tundra to the tropical rainforests of the Amazon, our ancestors established societies that were as diverse as the landscapes they inhabited. They constructed vast trade networks, connecting communities from the Great Plains to the Andes, exchanging goods like obsidian, turquoise, and even ideas that shaped their shared identities. Then came 1492, a year that forever altered our world. But let's be clear, we did not disappear. The arrival of Columbus marked the beginning of immense challenges, yet the spirit of our people endured. Today, the languages of our ancestors are still spoken, from Inuktitut in the Arctic to Quechua in the Andes. Their teachings, about living in harmony with the land, respecting all life, and honoring the interconnectedness of the universe, remain alive. These are the untold stories of the Americas before Columbus. They are stories of resilience, brilliance, and survival. And they are our stories, waiting to be told to the world. Our indigenous creation stories are the heartbeat of our identity. They tell us that we emerged from the earth, the water, the sky, and the land below. These stories are not just myths, they are truths, passed down for thousands of years, shaping who we are as a people. Some believe our ancestors walked into the Americas across an ancient land bridge that once connected Asia and North America, a frozen highway called Beringia, used during the Ice Age. Others say our people arrived in ocean-going canoes, braving the waves of the Pacific, guided by stars, courage, and the promise of new lands. But here's what connects all of these ideas. They all begin with a journey. And by 1491, this journey had filled every corner of the Americas with vibrant, thriving nations. From the icy Arctic to the lush Amazon rainforest, tens of millions of indigenous people called these lands home. These countless nations, each with its own language, customs, and ways of life, did not appear overnight. It took thousands of years of resilience, adaptation, and innovation. Our ancestors turned a small founding population into a world of immense diversity, a world built from the ground up by their hands, their hearts, and their spirits. Since 1492, our traditional territories have been shared, sometimes peacefully, often not, with people from all over the world. Yet, through it all, we have continued to search for the roots of our identity, reconnecting with the origins of our ancestors. The science of archaeology tells us that humans likely arrived in the Americas between 18,000 to 20,000 years ago. But for us, as indigenous people, the truth runs deeper. Philosophically, we have always been here. This land is not something we came to. It is something we belong to, and it belongs to us. Every nation among us has its own creation story, each as unique as the stars that guided our ancestors. These stories, passed from one generation to the next, are more than history. They are the foundation of our sense of identity. They teach us who we are, where we come from, and why we belong. So when did we first arrive in the Americas? The answer isn't just in dates or migrations. It's in our stories, in our languages, in the land that still remembers us. In the beginning, the world was submerged under a vast flood, with no land in sight. Only a few animals and birds survived, clinging desperately to a log adrift on the endless water. Among them was the tiny muskrat, a creature small in size but immense in determination. The animals realized that to survive, they needed land. One by one, they took turns diving deep into the water, hoping to bring up even a handful of earth. But each attempt ended in failure. Empty-handed, they returned to the surface, exhausted and despairing. Then the little muskrat took its turn. Against all odds, it dove deeper than anyone had before. When it resurfaced, it brought with it a paw full of earth, a simple but powerful gift. This earth was placed on the back of a great turtle, and from this humble beginning, land began to form. This is how North America came to be known as Turtle Island, a name that embodies the resilience and determination of life itself. Long ago, there were only the sea and the sky, vast and unending. From this void, the gods created the earth and filled it with animals and birds. But the gods soon realized that these creatures could not honor or worship them. So they decided to create humans. Their first attempt was with mud, but the figures they shaped were too fragile and crumbled away. Then they tried wood, but the wooden beings lacked minds and hearts. They were hollow and lifeless. Displeased, the gods unleashed a great flood to destroy them. Finally, the gods crafted humans from maize dough, the very essence of life in Mesoamerican tradition. These beings were different. They possessed intelligence, knowledge, and a deep capacity for worship. They became the first true people, embodying the sacred connection between the gods, the earth, and life itself. In another beginning, people lived in the sky, a realm shared only with the birds. It was a world of vast openness, but one young hunter was drawn to the rare and beautiful creatures of this celestial domain. One day he set out to hunt a particularly stunning bird. He shot his arrow, and as he went to retrieve it, he discovered something extraordinary, a hole at the bottom of the sky. Peering through it, he saw a world unlike any he had known, a land filled with forests, rivers, and wild animals. The hunter invited others to join him in exploring this new world, but they refused. Undeterred, he fashioned a rope, lowered it through the hole, and climbed down into this unfamiliar land. There, he hunted a deer and brought it back to the sky world. Intrigued by his discovery, the others followed. One by one, they descended to the new world below. But the last person to pass through was a woman, and she became stuck in the hole. Her presence sealed the passage, forever separating the people from their sky home. Today, she remains visible in the night sky, shining as the morning star, a reminder of the journey that brought life to the world below. Historians and archaeologists have long supported a remarkable theory. During the last ice age, our ancestors walked into the Americas across an ancient land bridge that connected Asia and North America. This land bridge, known as Beringia, was a lifeline between two continents, a 1,000-kilometer expanse of tundra and grassland that emerged when glaciers locked up vast quantities of water, lowering sea levels by more than 100 meters. Imagine a world covered in ice, great sheets of it, kilometers thick, stretching across the northern reaches of North America, Europe, and Asia. But even in this frozen landscape, there were ice-free regions, sanctuaries where life thrived. Beringia was one of those places. It wasn't just a barren wasteland. It was a habitat rich with wildlife and resources, where our ancestors lived, hunted, and prepared for their monumental journey. Evidence of this incredible migration is etched into the land. In northern Alaska, the Yukon, and British Columbia, archaeologists have uncovered some of the oldest sites on the continent, places where ancient tools and artifacts tell the story of people who crossed this icy gateway. These early explorers relied on their intelligence, resourcefulness, and stone tools as they ventured into an uncharted world. They didn't just survive, they thrived. They discovered new lands, adapted to new environments, and over time colonized not just one but two vast continents. Beringia was more than a bridge. It was a crossroads, a place where human ingenuity met the challenge of the Ice Age. The people who crossed it were not just travelers, they were pioneers, laying the foundation for the diverse cultures and nations that would one day flourish across the Americas. Today, the legacy of Beringia lives on in the stories, traditions, and languages of indigenous peoples. It's a reminder of the resilience and determination of our ancestors, who faced the harshest conditions imaginable, yet carved a path that connected worlds. There was a time when the waters between Asia and North America fell so low that the bottom of the sea was exposed, revealing a vast, arid landscape. This area, known as Beringia, was not just a barren wasteland, it was alive. It was a prairie-like environment where abundant birds and mammals thrived, providing the people living there with food, materials for clothing, and shelter. It was a land of opportunity and survival, a vital link between continents during the harsh Ice Age. But Beringia was fleeting, a bridge destined to disappear. Around 20,000 years ago, as the Earth's climate began to warm, glaciers started their slow retreat. By 15,000 years ago, the rising seas had swallowed the land bridge. The people who had called Beringia home faced a choice: retreat back to Siberia or push forward into the uncharted lands of North America. The melting glaciers reshaped the world, creating massive environmental changes in the northern hemisphere. About 12,000 years ago, the land between the Laurentide and Cordilleran ice sheets in North America widened, forming what researchers call the ice-free corridor. For decades, archaeologists believed this corridor was the main gateway for people traveling further south into the Americas. It was a narrow passage through towering walls of ice, a pathway shaped by nature but conquered by human determination. This theory, known as the ice-free corridor hypothesis, suggests that as the ice retreated, early peoples ventured south, exploring and settling in new lands. Beringia and the ice-free corridor represent more than just physical landscapes. They were the settings of profound journeys. These were not simple migrations. They were acts of survival, courage, and resilience. Our ancestors faced immense challenges, yet they adapted to a constantly changing environment, discovering new ways to live and thrive. Today, the story of Beringia and the ice-free corridor is told not just through archaeology, but through the oral histories of indigenous peoples. These stories remind us that while the land bridge is gone, its legacy endures in the lives of those who crossed it and the cultures they built. Imagine standing in Alaska at the edge of a seemingly endless frozen expanse. Ahead lies a narrow opening between two massive ice sheets, a path south through the ice-free corridor. To take this route meant risking everything. For our ancestors, it was a leap of faith, a decision to leave behind the known for the possibility of better lands thousands of miles away. The terrain they faced was unforgiving. The winters in this corridor were harsh, bitterly cold, and merciless. Summers offered little relief, bringing chilly rains and unstable conditions. It wasn't an easy path, and opportunities to find stable land to settle were scarce. Yet, driven by survival, hope, and resilience, these people forged ahead into an uncertain future. The end of the last ice age, around 12,000 years ago, reshaped the world, melting glaciers, raising sea levels, and transforming the northern hemisphere. These environmental changes set the stage for massive migrations of animals, birds, and humans across continents. But here's the remarkable part. The people who journeyed south through the ice-free corridor were not the first to reach these lands. Long before the glaciers retreated, humans had already settled in both North and South America. Evidence shows that indigenous peoples had been thriving south of the ice sheets for thousands of years, building cultures and adapting to their environments. As temperatures warmed and glaciers receded, life across the globe was in motion. In North America, Asia, and Europe, animals and birds moved to new habitats and humans followed. These migrations were not random. They were purposeful acts of survival and discovery. For the indigenous peoples crossing into North America, every step through the ice-free corridor was a testament to human resilience. They couldn't have known the scale of their journey or the legacy they would leave behind. What they achieved wasn't just a migration. It was the continuation of a story that began with their ancestors and shaped the future of entire continents. Tens of thousands of years ago, the world was vastly different. In parts of the Asian subcontinent, the climate was wetter, and regions we now know as deserts were fertile and full of life. The Thar Desert in India, for example, was once a thriving grassland where hunters followed herds of animals. Over time, some of these hunters settled permanently, creating the foundation for future civilizations. As the glaciers of the last ice age began to retreat, warming climates transformed landscapes across the northern hemisphere. Fertile soils emerged in regions like the Middle East, where early agriculturalists began cultivating crops. These innovations sparked the rise of farming settlements, which eventually grew into the world's first cities. During this same ice age, sea levels were 100 meters lower than today. This dramatic drop in sea levels exposed a 1,000-kilometer-wide land bridge between Siberia and Alaska, known as Beringia. This natural highway became one of the key migration routes into the Americas, allowing humans to journey into uncharted lands. Over millennia, shifts in climate reshaped migration patterns and hunting practices worldwide. These changes were not just environmental. They influenced where people traveled, how they adapted, and the ways in which they survived. When archaeologists began studying the ice-free corridor, they expected to find the oldest sites in the north and progressively younger ones as they moved south. But what they discovered defied logic. The sites became younger as they moved north. This paradox suggests something remarkable. By the time people began moving north through the corridor, there were already communities living south of the ice sheets. The question is, where did those early people come from? Did they arrive through coastal migration routes, or had they been there long before the glaciers retreated? This mystery remains at the heart of our understanding of ancient migrations. It challenges us to rethink how, when, and where humans first settled in the Americas. It also highlights the incredible adaptability of early peoples, how they navigated a changing world, from fertile plains to icy landscapes, always finding ways to thrive. Through the clues left behind, tools, sites, and the stories preserved in oral traditions, we continue to piece together the journey of our ancestors, a journey that reshaped the continents and gave rise to the vibrant cultures of today. Imagine a time over 14,000 years ago. Along the rugged Pacific coastline of the Americas, ancient villages and campsites tell a story that reshapes how we understand human migration. Recent discoveries in archaeology now support a groundbreaking theory. The first people to arrive in the Americas may have traveled not by land, but by boat. Back in the 1970s, researchers challenged the long-held belief in the land bridge theory, proposing that the coastal route was also a viable path. This sparked heated debates among archaeologists. Was it the land bridge or the coastal route? Which theory was correct? Today, we're beginning to see that it wasn't just one or the other. Both migration routes likely played a role in the peopling of the Americas. But more and more evidence points to the coastal route as the earlier alternative, offering a glimpse into a daring journey of survival and discovery. The Pacific coastline during the Ice Age was not an easy path to travel. This was a world of treacherous icebergs and unpredictable ice flows, a place where survival demanded extraordinary courage and skill. Yet, the people who traveled this route were not ordinary. They were skilled navigators capable of making long ocean voyages. Archaeological evidence from East Asia shows that as early as 40,000 years ago, humans were already crossing open oceans. These early seafarers relied on their ingenuity and determination to venture into the unknown, driven by hope, survival, and the promise of new lands. For those who braved the Pacific coastline, the journey wasn't about knowing where they were going. It was about the possibility of finding something better. Every paddle stroke across frigid waters, every night spent under the stars, and every encounter with the untamed wilderness was a step into history. The story of the first peoples to arrive in the Americas is one of adaptability and resilience. Whether crossing the land bridge of Beringia or navigating the icy waters of the Pacific coast, these journeys represent humanity's unyielding spirit. The coastal migration theory doesn't just challenge traditional narratives, it enriches them. It reminds us that the Americas were shaped by explorers, by those who ventured into the unknown and built their lives in lands they had never seen before. As we uncover more evidence, we gain a deeper understanding of these journeys, how our ancestors defied the odds, charted new courses, and left a legacy that continues to inspire. What drove our ancestors to embark on such a dangerous journey across the sea? We may never fully know the answer. Was it the promise of new lands, the hope for a better life, or simply the pull of curiosity? Whatever the reason, these indigenous seafarers undertook one of the most treacherous journeys imaginable, venturing into the unknown with only their skills and resilience to guide them. We have evidence that these early people were here, shaping the land and being shaped by it in return. They were not just passing through, they were producing culture, creating communities, and honoring their dead with rituals that connected them to the land they inhabited. These seafarers were not just explorers, they were settlers, weaving themselves into the fabric of the landscape and taking ownership of it in their own unique way. When they arrived, the land was strange, foreign, and full of both promise and peril. Survival in this new world demanded ingenuity and adaptability. The skills they brought with them, knowing how to live off the land, identify edible seafood, and adapt to unfamiliar terrain, were their greatest assets. These abilities were not just practical, they were the difference between life and death in an uncharted world. The question of where we come from isn't just about history, it's about identity. Our origins give us a sense of place, grounding us as individuals and as a people. This connection to the land isn't just physical, it's something that lives within us. It's in our bones, our blood, and especially our minds. For indigenous peoples, the landscape isn't just a backdrop, it's a part of who we are. It holds the stories of our ancestors, their struggles, and their triumphs. It ties us to the land in a way that transcends time, reminding us that even as we journeyed into the unknown, we were always connected to the places we called home. How many indigenous people first arrived in the Americas by water? We may never know the exact number, but one thing is clear: this was not a one-time event. Archaeological discoveries continue to add pieces to the puzzle, revealing a complex and fascinating story of the first people who ventured into North America. Whether our ancestors arrived by land across Beringia or by sea along the Pacific coast, they didn't just stop, they spread. Evidence shows that Native Americans were living as far south as the tip of South America more than 14,000 years ago. This strongly supports the hypothesis that a coastal route may have been the key to their migration, as traveling over land during the Ice Age would have been nearly impossible. One of the most significant pieces of this puzzle is Monte Verde, an ancient village site located in Chile, 50 kilometers inland from the Pacific coastline. Dating back at least 14,800 years, Monte Verde was discovered in the 1970s beneath a creek, its artifacts largely preserved in the wet environment. This village consisted of 12 small huts built from wood, animal hides, and woven ropes, housing a community of 20 to 30 people. Large and small hearths provided warmth and a place to cook. The people of Monte Verde were remarkably resourceful, utilizing diverse ecosystems to sustain their community. They gathered plants from nearby mountains and grasslands, while their marine-based diet included crabs, clams, and various types of seaweed. Though mammoths were not common in this region, evidence points to their reliance on smaller game and innovative fishing techniques to thrive. Monte Verde tells a story of adaptation and survival. These early inhabitants were not just surviving, they were thriving in a complex ecosystem, demonstrating an exceptional understanding of their environment. Their marine lifestyle highlights their ingenuity in utilizing every available resource, from land to sea. Over thousands of years, through trial and error, our ancestors developed what we now call traditional knowledge. This knowledge of hunting, gathering, crafting tools, and navigating the environment was passed down from generation to generation, becoming the foundation of indigenous cultures. From the earliest hunters who relied on wild game for food, shelter, and clothing, to the communities who built villages like Monte Verde, their tools and techniques became defining elements of their identities. These artifacts, stone tools, woven ropes, and even preserved remains of meals, offer us a window into their lives and the beginnings of culture in the Americas. Each archaeological discovery, from Monte Verde to the coastal sites of California, brings us closer to understanding the incredible journeys of our ancestors. These early migrations were more than just movements of people. They were acts of resilience, ingenuity, and hope. The story of how the first peoples came to live in every corner of the Americas is still being written, and every new piece of evidence deepens our connection to their legacy. The lessons of adaptation and survival they left behind are still with us, shaping the traditions and knowledge that continue to thrive in indigenous communities today. The Clovis culture, discovered in New Mexico, revolutionized our understanding of early peoples in the Americas. These skilled hunters crafted advanced spear points from materials like jasper and obsidian, enabling them to hunt megafauna such as mammoths. The rapid spread of Clovis technology across North America suggests a mobile and innovative society, thriving in challenging environments. Today, this discovery remains a cornerstone in understanding early human adaptation and ingenuity. For decades, the Clovis culture was thought to be the first and only culture to span all of North America. This belief, known as the Clovis First model, suggested that Clovis people were the pioneers who populated the Americas. But over the last 10 to 20 years, new discoveries have completely rewritten this narrative. Archaeologists now have evidence from North America, Mesoamerica, and even South America of ancient sites that predate the Clovis period by thousands of years. These findings reveal that Clovis wasn't the beginning of the story. it was just one chapter. Think of Clovis as an idea, a technological innovation that spread across pre-existing populations. These people adopted and adapted the new spearhead designs, weaving them into their existing ways of life. Long before Clovis points, humans in the Americas were crafting tools not only from stone but also from animal bones. These bone tools were just as effective, serving as lethal weapons for hunting and fishing. A fascinating example comes from Manus Hill in Washington state. Here, archaeologists discovered a bone tool embedded in the vertebra of a mastodon, a distant relative of the elephant. What's extraordinary is that this tool was crafted from the bone of another mastodon. Radiocarbon dating of both the tool and the kill revealed that the site dates back 13,800 years, a millennium before the glaciers retreated enough to open the ice-free corridor. Imagine a hunter taking down a mastodon, a feat of immense skill and bravery. It's likely a story he told for the rest of his life, passing down the knowledge and techniques to future generations. As glaciers receded and opened new lands, early humans adapted their hunting techniques to the changing environments and prey. In the far north, they encountered herding animals like reindeer and caribou, which they hunted communally. These hunts relied on strategy, driving animals into natural traps and using stabbing spears to finish the kill. The tools they crafted, whether from stone or bone, were lethal and precise. These technologies weren't just tools for survival, they were innovations that defined cultures. The history of tools stretches back millions of years. 20,000 years ago, nomadic hunter-gatherers in the Kibara cave region of Israel developed the Kibaran tool technology, using flint to create spear points and arrowheads. In Western Europe, around 19,000 years ago, the Solutrean tool industry emerged, with hunters using heat to flake flint with incredible precision. In North America, the Clovis point stands out as one of the earliest and most iconic stone tool technologies. These spearheads, first discovered in Clovis, New Mexico, were used to hunt megafauna like mammoths and bison. The ingenuity behind these tools highlights the adaptability and resourcefulness of early peoples in shaping their world. The story of early tools is more than just a tale of technology. It's a story of survival, innovation, and cultural evolution. From the hunters at Manus Hill to the communities who spread Clovis technology, these tools connect us to the resilience and creativity of our ancestors. Every discovery pushes the boundaries of what we know, giving us a deeper appreciation for the ingenuity that defined the first peoples of the Americas. Their legacy lives on in the tools they left behind and the stories they tell. Across the globe, the tools our ancestors created were a reflection of the environments they lived in and the game they hunted. But as they settled the vast continents of the Americas, another innovation flourished: language. Through hundreds of nations, cultures, and communities, languages evolved and diversified, becoming a cornerstone of social and cultural identity. By 1491, the Americas had become the most linguistically diverse region in the world. An estimated 2,000 distinct languages were spoken across the hemisphere, each belonging to a language family connected by shared grammar, diction, and vocabulary. For ancient societies, language was far more than a tool for communication. It was a vessel of cultural, historical, and traditional knowledge, preserving the stories, values, and wisdom of entire nations. Many of these languages survive today, including Quechua in South America, Mayan in Mesoamerica, Pueblo in North America, and Inuktitut in the Arctic. Mesoamerican cultures, such as the Maya and Aztec, even developed complex writing systems. Yet for most indigenous peoples, language was rooted in oral tradition, a living, spoken legacy passed from generation to generation. Unlike writing, language doesn't leave physical marks on the land. It exists within people, their voices, and their memories. In North America alone, there are about 30 distinct language families, complex webs of related languages that have crossed paths and evolved over thousands of years. Central America is home to another 30 families, and South America boasts close to 100. Together, these families form a vibrant tapestry of linguistic diversity unparalleled in the world. Early comparative linguistics often focused on written languages like English, French, and Italian, leading scholars to believe it was impossible to reconstruct languages without written histories. But anthropologist linguists working with indigenous languages in North America shattered this misconception. They proved that it was indeed possible to trace and reconstruct unwritten languages, uncovering relationships between languages separated by time and geography. Language is more than words, it is the soul of a people. It carries stories, connects generations, and defines identity. Every reconstructed language, every word traced to its origins, tells us about the journeys, struggles, and triumphs of those who came before us. The linguistic diversity of the Americas is a testament to the resilience and creativity of indigenous cultures. While many languages have been lost, countless others endure, spoken today by communities who keep their heritage alive. These languages are not relics of the past. They are living, breathing connections to history and identity. Each word, phrase, and language family is a piece of a much larger story, a story of humanity's ability to adapt, connect, and create. By understanding and preserving these languages, we honor not only the past, but also the future of indigenous peoples and their cultures. Let's remember, language doesn't leave marks on the land, but it leaves indelible marks on the hearts and minds of the people who speak it. When European linguistic methods were first applied to indigenous languages, they revealed something extraordinary. These tools, originally developed for studying written languages, proved just as effective for unwritten ones. This breakthrough opened the door for researchers to trace the origins and connections of Native American languages, something that has long been a pressing question for those studying indigenous cultures. Interestingly, sometimes the indigenous people themselves offered insights. They would say, "Our language is related to that of the group over there." And when researchers looked closer, they often found shared words and structures. Even when people couldn't fully communicate with one another, there were undeniable similarities in their languages, pointing to a shared linguistic ancestry. Indigenous languages are not just tools for communication, they are carriers of cultural and traditional knowledge. But tracing their histories is no easy task. Unlike biology, where evolution follows a relatively constant rate, language evolves unpredictably. Languages change in fits and starts. Long periods of stability are punctuated by sudden, dramatic shifts in structure or vocabulary. This makes it impossible to predict changes with accuracy or to determine precisely how long two related languages have been separate. Because of this, linguistic research relies heavily on archaeology to provide calibration points for these reconstructions. Archaeological evidence helps researchers align linguistic timelines with physical artifacts and human migrations, giving context to the evolution of languages. Oral languages, while vibrant and alive, are inherently fragile. Without written records, they rely entirely on the memories of their speakers. Over centuries, countless indigenous languages have been lost. Of the thousands spoken in the Americas before 1491, hundreds have disappeared forever. Each language lost represents more than just words. It is a cultural and historical archive erased. Oral entomology, the study of spoken traditions, reminds us of how fluid and fleeting these languages can be. And yet, their survival and the connections we uncover between them tell a powerful story of resilience and shared heritage. The study of Native American languages reveals deep connections between communities, even those separated by vast distances. Shared words and structures hint at ancient migrations, trade networks, and cultural exchanges that shaped the Americas long before written history. Every effort to preserve, study, and reconstruct these languages is an act of honoring the people who spoke them and the wisdom they carried. It's a way of keeping alive the stories and traditions that form the foundation of indigenous identity. As researchers continue to uncover these connections, they remind us that even though many languages have been lost, the voices of our ancestors still echo in the words we speak today. The question of when languages first arrived in the Americas remains elusive. As far as we can tell, they've always been here, woven into the fabric of indigenous civilizations. But archaeology offers us clues. Across the globe, ancient sites tell stories of humanity's ingenuity and resilience. From the monumental stone buildings of ancient Iraq, one of the first cities in the world, to the unified kingdom created by Pharaoh Narmer in Egypt over 5,000 years ago. In the Americas, One of the most remarkable examples of early urbanization is Cahokia, the largest urban center in North America 1,000 years ago. Cahokia was at the heart of a vast intertribal trade network, connecting communities from the Gulf of Mexico to the Great Lakes. Its influence stretched far and wide, shaping the lives of thousands. By 1491, the Americas were home to an estimated 100 million people, with indigenous communities thriving from the Arctic to the Caribbean and as far south as the tip of South America. This remarkable population growth can be traced to the advent of agriculture. The cultivation of annual crops allowed people to settle, reducing their need to travel for food. Villages grew into towns, and towns became cities, supported by steady food supplies from skilled farmers. Over thousands of years, this agricultural revolution fueled the rise of great civilizations across the Americas. Civilizations in the Americas rose and fell like waves through time. These societies experienced periods of extraordinary innovation, creating technologies and structures that were among the most advanced in the world. But as quickly as they grew, many collapsed, leaving behind remnants of their once thriving communities. Archaeology reveals this history as a palimpsest, a layered story, like graffiti painted over again and again. Each layer represents a different civilization, each with its own contributions and legacy. When archaeologists excavate these sites, they uncover fragments of up to 10 different cultures, stacked upon one another, telling the tale of human persistence. One of the most spectacular examples of urban achievement was the Aztec city-state of Tenochtitlan, founded in 1325. Built on a man-made island where modern-day Mexico City now stands, Tenochtitlan was the beating heart of the Aztec Empire. The city's intricate social strata included the working class, military members, priests, and elite rulers. Its bustling marketplace was a hub of trade and culture, serving a population of over 250,000 people, making it the largest city in the Americas in 1491. At the height of its power, the Aztec Empire boasted a population of between 2 and 3 million, a testament to its advanced organization and innovation. Turning back to North America, we find Cahokia, a city that rivaled even Tenochtitlan in influence. As the largest and most influential urban center north of Mesoamerica before 1491, Cahokia supported tens of thousands of people. Strategically located near the confluence of the Mississippi, Missouri, and Illinois rivers, Cahokia thrived as a trade hub and cultural center. Its impressive mounds and urban planning reveal a society of great complexity, one that shaped the region for centuries. From Tenochtitlan's vibrant marketplaces to Cahokia's sprawling mounds, these ancient urban centers remind us of the incredible achievements of the America's first peoples. Their rise and fall tell a story of resilience, adaptation, and creativity, a legacy that continues to inspire. As we uncover the layers of their histories, we gain a deeper appreciation for the civilizations that once flourished across the Western Hemisphere. Their innovations, their languages, and their cultures remain a testament to the enduring spirit of humanity. Around 800 years ago, the city of Cahokia stood as a thriving metropolis, with a population of over 40,000 people, one of the largest urban centers in pre-Columbian North America. Strategically located at the meeting point of the Mississippi, Missouri, and Illinois rivers, Cahokia was a natural gateway for intertribal trade, connecting communities across vast distances. Its location wasn't just practical, it was transformative. The city became a hub of cultural exchange, economic activity, and innovation, influencing regions as far as the Gulf of Mexico and the Great Lakes. Yet, like the great cities of Mesoamerica, Cahokia eventually disappeared. The reasons for its decline remain complex and multifaceted. Archaeologists point to factors such as drought, warfare, invasion, and conquest, forces that shape the variable landscape of population and power in the Americas. Cahokia's fall reminds us that civilizations are not static. They rise and fall, leaving behind traces of their stories for future generations to uncover. Today, indigenous archaeologists bring a unique perspective to understanding Cahokia and other ancient sites. They focus not only on the what of material culture, such as pottery, tools, and structures, but also on the who and why behind those artifacts. A piece of pottery isn't just an object. It's a window into human lives, how people transported it, how they used it, and what it meant to them. Archaeology, at its heart, is about stories, stories that connect us to the past and to the people who shaped it. For indigenous archaeologists, the work isn't just academic, it's deeply personal. It's about understanding how individual lives and community histories fit into a broader narrative of who we are today. Each artifact, each site, and each story is a reminder of the resilience, creativity, and humanity of the people who came before us. It's not just about uncovering the past, it's about honoring it, preserving it, and ensuring that its lessons continue to inspire. Cahokia is more than a historical site. It's a symbol of what indigenous civilizations achieved. Its rise as a center of trade and culture, and its eventual decline, tell a story of adaptation, challenge, and change. As archaeologists, especially indigenous archaeologists, continue to study Cahokia, they're not just piecing together a timeline, they're uncovering the human stories that shaped the land and the people who called it home. And in doing so, they remind us that history is not just about the past, it's about how the past lives on in us today. For centuries, the history of indigenous peoples has often been told through the lens of outsiders, experts interpreting written reports or secondhand accounts. But today, this narrative is changing. More and more indigenous scholars are stepping forward, armed with advanced degrees and deep cultural knowledge, to reclaim the stories of their communities. These individuals bring an authenticity and authority to their work, ensuring that their histories are told accurately and respectfully. It's not just about recounting the past, it's about providing a bridge for others to understand the rich, complex narratives that have shaped their tribes and communities. The sequencing of the human genome has revolutionized how we understand ancient peoples. But it's not the only clue to our shared past. Archaeology provides a fascinating lens into how humans across the globe honored their dead. In ancient Egypt, rulers were buried with gold, tools, food, and animals, reflecting their belief in an afterlife. In Kabza Cave, Israel, some of the earliest human burials were discovered, including a boy buried with a deer antler, a poignant symbol of connection to nature and the spiritual world. In the Americas, one of the most remarkable discoveries came from a cenote near Tulum, Mexico. In the 1990s, underwater archaeologists found the remains of a teenage girl nicknamed Naya, submerged 40 meters deep in a cave. Naya had fallen into the sinkhole 13,000 years ago, and her DNA revealed something extraordinary. She is a direct ancestor of many indigenous peoples living in Central and North America today. The sequencing of the human genome early in the 21st century opened up new pathways for understanding ancient migrations and settlements. By comparing the DNA of modern indigenous peoples with that of ancient remains, researchers can trace the movement and connections of our ancestors across millennia. Using genetic data, scientists can examine maternal lineages, paternal lineages, and even the entirety of an individual's genome to uncover the stories encoded in their DNA. This work has revealed shared ancestry between populations and deep connections across continents, helping us understand not only where we come from, but also how deeply interconnected we all are. Naya's story is a powerful example of how archaeology and genetics can intersect. Her DNA confirmed that people living in the Americas today are directly linked to those who lived here thousands of years ago. It's a testament to the resilience and survival of indigenous peoples who have endured for generations despite monumental challenges. Her discovery also highlights the rarity of such ancient remains. While tens of millions of people lived in the Americas by 1491, the population, when humans first arrived, numbered only in the thousands. This makes every discovery of an ancient ancestor incredibly precious, a rare glimpse into the lives of those who shaped our world. The convergence of oral traditions, archaeology, and genetics paints a fuller picture of human history. It reminds us that the past is not just a collection of artifacts or sequences of DNA. It's a living narrative carried forward by the descendants of those who came before. By honoring indigenous voices, embracing the power of story, and unlocking the secrets held in our genes, we can better understand the shared history of humanity. The journey of our ancestors, from their migrations to their rituals and their survival, is a story that connects us all. Understanding the history of indigenous peoples requires meticulous research, and ancient DNA plays a crucial role in this journey. Ancient samples allow us to ask profound questions. How long ago did they live? What did they eat? Where did they thrive? Yet the challenge lies in the limited samples available. So far, only 50 ancient DNA samples have been extracted, though we know thousands lived during those times. The majority of these samples come from South America and Central America, with very few from the United States or Canada. This highlights the need for more comprehensive studies to better understand the diversity of ancient peoples across the Americas. Ancient DNA reveals something remarkable. The closest genetic relations to indigenous peoples in the Americas are from Central Asia, confirming the migrations that brought our ancestors here. But the details remain elusive. Was there one great migration, or did waves of people arrive over time? Did they settle in one place or spread across the continents? While DNA gives us clues, it can't answer these questions alone. We rely on archaeology to provide the context, timelines, locations, and the artifacts that tell the full story. Studying ancient DNA isn't just about science, it's about people. It requires a culturally sensitive approach, involving indigenous communities in the research process. These studies must honor the traditions, histories, and beliefs of the people whose ancestors are being studied. While there may seem to be tension between archaeology, genetics, and indigenous origin stories, they are all pieces of a greater whole. Together, they contribute to the understanding of a shared past that honors both science and tradition. For many indigenous peoples, creation stories are central to their identity. Indigenous creation stories often recount epic journeys across vast lands and waters. While these narratives are deeply spiritual, they also resonate with findings from genetics and archaeology, which trace the movement of ancient peoples across continents. Together, these perspectives highlight the enduring connection between cultural memory and scientific discovery. Our ancestors didn't just cross continents and oceans. They battled disease, adapted to new environments, and built thriving communities. When European contact brought devastation to many of these populations, those who survived carried forward the resilience and spirit of their ancestors. More than 500 years ago, when Christopher Columbus first encountered indigenous peoples, he mistakenly called them Los Indios, believing he had reached India. But what he had actually found was a world unlike any other, home to millions of people and thousands of distinct nations, each with its own traditions, languages, and stories. Today, we honor those ancestors by keeping their stories alive. Through traditional knowledge and the material culture they left behind, we remain connected to their legacy. Before 1491, this land was already full of life, innovation, and resilience, a testament to the enduring spirit of indigenous peoples.